Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope that by the end of this video, you'll think, wow, this is a really cool channel, and will consider subscribing. What I'm going to be talking about today is I'm going to be cutting out the halves of the body for my neck through guitar build. And I'll be doing this work on my CNC machine. And I'm going to try to provide as much detail as I can on the process and the bits I use and all that kind of stuff. But in truth, if you want more details, I will have a link up here to a playlist which includes videos that go into great detail on the subject of bits and feeds and speeds and all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's jump in and get started. To carve the body, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the blank for the upper half of the body and I'm going to set that on my wasteboard and make sure that the center lines on the body are lined up with the engraved lines on my CNC machine wasteboard, and then I'll clamp everything down. And then the next thing I've got to do is home the machine, and that tells the controller exactly where in the workspace the spindle is located. And from there I can install the first bit that I'm going to use, which in this case is a 1/4 inch diameter 2-flute spiral downcut bit. And I'm using a downcut bit because my first cutting operation is going to be into the surface, and I want to make sure that that is a clean surface, and that's what the downcut bit will do. Then I have to jog the machine to the very center of the wasteboard, and I'll lower the spindle in preparation to probe the bit, which is what I'm doing here. And that will tell the controller where the tip of the bit is in relation to the workpiece. Then I just jog the machine back and place that the spindle right at the lower left corner, which is my XY start position. And from there I can begin cutting. And the first carving operation I'm doing is the recess for my control cavity cover on the back of the lower half of the body. Once that's done, I can then replace the bit with a 1/4 inch diameter 2-flute spiral upcut bit. And this is a long shaft bit, so it can reach deep into the wood as it carves out all the material to hollow out the cavity for the controls. Now, every time I change the bit, I have to make sure that I probe it again, because the tip of the bit is going to be in a different location relative to the workspace, and I need to tell the machine that. So I'll jog it over the workpiece and I'll probe it again. And once that's done, I can then jog the machine back to its XY start position, and I'm ready to start the next carving operation, which, as I said before, is going to be hogging out all that material inside the control cavity. And one thing you'll notice as I'm doing this work, I don't have a dust shoe on my CNC machine. I have a dust shoe, but when I'm shooting video, I prefer to leave the dust shoe off so that you can actually see what's going on. And in truth, it really doesn't affect much. It just makes for a big mess. And that takes a little extra work to clean up later on. But here I'm also carving the cutouts for the lower cutout or cutaway on the front of the guitar body. And these type of cutting operations are done in 2 steps. The first is a rough carve, which you just saw, and then this is the finishing pass, which smooths out the surface that was left by the rough carve. Once those operations are done, I can remove the blank from the wasteboard, and this is where I'm going to be flipping the blank over to carve in the other side. And again, to make sure everything lines up so that I can do accurate 2-sided carving, I will make sure to line up the center lines that I drew on the blank with the center lines that are engraved in the wasteboard. A lot of times people ask me why I don't use a pin alignment system, and the main reason is because I think the pin alignment system works best when you're doing the same thing over and over and over, which I'm not doing in this case. Mine are always different, so it's just easier to line up a center line. But here I'm carving out the scallops on the lower blanks cutaways, and this is the finishing pass to smooth the surface where those carves are. Then of course I have to do the pockets for the pickups, and this guitar is going to be equipped with humbuckers, so I'm carving the pockets. They're just parts of the pockets, the upper or the lower part of it. And then I have to do the perimeter shape. And this is done in multiple steps, in multiple passes to go all the way through the body. Once that's done, I can remove the lower blank from the wasteboard. And as you can see, that part is still attached to the blank. It's done so with tabs that keep the blank from flying all over the place once the bit cuts all the way through. So then what I have to do is just cut those tabs, and I just use this length of a hacksaw blade. It's cheap, easy, simple way to do it. Maybe not the fastest, but it works. But then once I've cut those tabs, I can liberate that body section from the blank. And one thing I want to impress upon you is the fact that I always save my blank scraps for use as finish testing later on. Now it's time to move on to carving the upper half of my body. And basically the cutting operation here is the same as the lower blank, with one or a couple of exceptions. One is I'm adding a belly relief, which you see being carved right here. And there's also a forearm relief, which is carved in the other side. So after flipping the blank over to carve the top side, I begin the process of cutting that. And here you see that forearm blank being rough cut, the pickup pockets or the edges of the pickup pockets, as well as the perimeter contour. And of course, once that's done, then I can remove the blank, I can cut it out, and this is how the body is going to fit to the neck. It's sort of like putting together a puzzle. Kind of a cool look to it. Something that's different, something that's unexpected, something I've always been thinking about. And of course, once you add the fretboard, you can begin to see how this guitar is going to look once it's all been glued together. And that will hopefully take place in a future episode. All right, guys, well, that's all the time I have for this episode. And what I plan to do next in this build is I'm going to install the frets into the fretboard, do a little bit of sanding, then I'll glue the body halves to the neck itself and progress on from there. I'm not sure if I'm going to get all that done in the next episode. I'll probably have to split that up over a couple of episodes. At any rate, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, I hope I've earned your subscription. So until the next episode, as always, take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll be back to watch this build progress.